Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. We are Ob and Courtney from Dandelion Branding, and welcome to Environmental Podcast.
Yeah, this is our podcast where we dive deep into different aspects of sustainability and then we have a conversation through a social and environmental justice lens.
So, if you are interested in sustainability and learning more about some of the topics that we dive deeply into, then definitely subscribe and join the conversation. We would love to have you.
Yeah, please subscribe.
Learn along with us.
Yeah, join us. This week we are wrapping up our food and agricultural deep dive. That we're actually like 8 weeks deep in this conversation. It's been a lot. And we're also going to transition into our new topic.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we knew going into talking about food systems, agriculture, the history of food, we knew it was going to be a big one.
Yeah. Yeah. We're reading back at like after each topic, we write an article. And like we were reading back the first
With the
podcast, and
notes.
it's like
Yeah.
you could tell by the tone of this episode that we're a little overwhelmed how big it is. I still feel that way a bit, actually. I think we could make. I mean, there are so many people that make whole careers out of like interdisciplinary studies of food and
Right. Right. Like there's so many different aspects of it, right? There's like the science behind making food systems more sustainable. There's this like the people who are on the ground actually like working on farms. And then there's this whole other piece of like learning about food as it relates to culture
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like systemic racism that's sort of built
Yeah.
into some of the ways in which food evolves.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that this is one of the places where systemic racism is most clearly seen. And there are so many tangible, like there's tangible examples, and it's clear to see throughout most systems in the world at really high, and when the infrastructure gets so big that it can't be hidden in like backlog memos and bullshit. But the food industry, agricultural industry, the way that we see food culture, the way that people are treated, even the way that farmers are treated, like the systemic racism in the food industry is horrendous. It's so clear. And it's I think one of the best examples out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much connection between power and food and
Yeah.
access, and anytime that those things
Mhm.
are tied, it's going to result in some sort of racist systems
Yeah.
in place.
Yeah. It was humbling. It was humbling to read. We read Black Food Matters, and we talked about it the past 2 weeks. Um, this that was one of the times when I felt really like I needed to check my own privilege, and which we I have no problem with that, but it was really humbling to be like, oh, having food on my table
Mm-hmm.
is a privilege I get to just have. And asking for help for food on my table is
Right.
also a privilege I get to have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even if folks that look like us needed government assistance to put food on the table, it wouldn't be as stigmatized as
Mm-mm.
someone who, as a person of color.
Nope.
Um, at
It's not
every
at
level of,
every
yeah.
level. I was on food stamps when I was in my early 20s, and it was not an issue. It was not treated, I wasn't treated differently. I like had very few run-ins, but that's not the experience that everyone has, and
Mhm.
folks of color definitely not.
Right.
Not.
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, every step of the way, really. Yeah. Like working in restaurants,
Oh man, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's far more likely to see uh white folks that are head chefs, general
Hmm.
managers, things like that, higher positions than and yeah,
Right.
it's something that's still, yeah, it's still in place every day, every place, everywhere you go, everywhere, every
Yeah.
restaurant. Um,
All over.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, before that, we talked about food deserts and food insecurity, how
Hmm.
they're a trap. They're an intentional trap set up by the system, and actually, or set, like intentionally set up, especially as it relates to food deserts, because of how the infrastructure around grocery stores are created. And actually, this isn't entirely related, but Tom was doing some research into the suburbs
Hmm.
and how suburbs are actually a huge drain on federal funding because it costs a lot to build and then to like get water and get everything you need into the suburbs. And
Hmm.
then once they're built, federal funding is over. And so cities have to try to fund the suburbs because property taxes don't cover their infrastructure of the suburbs because they're so damn far away.
Yeah.
It costs a lot to run. So then cities make a new suburb to cover the expense of the old suburb. And that's how that sprawl happened. But
Hmm.
suburbs literally only exist and are federally funded because white flight was an intentional, like systematic migration
Yeah.
towards like segment separation.
Yeah. 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 That that's interesting. I mean, I didn't know that about federal funding.
I didn't either. Tom was wondering like why cars are so prevalent in the States and like
Mhm.
why, like he was just wondering a bunch of stuff. So we started watching videos on urban planning in the United States. I don't know. I don't know his brain.
Fascinating. It's
Really
really
curious.
interesting.
Yeah, he was just really curious about like why people live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
How did that even like come about? How is that even possible? Because their infrastructure in the States is so different than it is in the Netherlands. That's where
Hmm.
we live now. And it actually turns out that like it is so expensive to run a suburb that cities can't afford it. So they keep building more suburbs. Then we have this massive sprawl. And the cities, because they have to pay for the suburbs, don't pay for the cities. Then you have white flight. Like it's a whole, it's a whole thing. And it contributes a lot to food deserts and white flight and this like racist, classist
Hmm.
thing that is so interconnected with the food and agriculture system.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I've been seeing folks talk more about that level of privilege as it relates to climate change. And like
Yeah.
folks who have money to have left the cities, for example, went and moved out to the suburbs
Mm-hmm.
to try to, you know, whatever
Like,
under the guise of it being safer, more family friendly and stuff like that. Um, those are the same people who have the ability to up and leave wherever they live. And so if someone like if that area experienced some sort of, drastic weather event, they would
Mhm.
be fine because they'd be able to just go up and move,
Go
go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And folks with lower income don't have that ability.
Nope.
So it's an interesting thing that I'm just seeing more and more people talk about that right now. It's just that, those people who live in the suburbs who have that middle higher income
Yeah.
have the privilege of not really having to worry about the consequences of a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
And like, I want to say that, I mean, that's only problematic if they don't worry about because if we just hate on people with money or people that have power, then like, and I know you're not hating on them, but just
Yeah.
in general, the conversation around it is really negative towards people with money, people that can move, people that can make a difference and don't. Like, if we they're also the people with power that can make a change, and a lot of times they're willfully ignorant
Yeah.
and that in and of itself, that's problematic. But like the ability to move, I mean, that should be afforded to everyone. But it's just like causing infighting when we're mad at that. And that's something that I'm seeing more often is people being mad at each other when really we should be mad at the system and working together to change a
I
system.
know. Oh my goodness. I know. Yeah. Yeah. I just had a conversation about about the about McDonald's and raising the minimum wage and um how the how like raising the minimum wage is going to make them have to offset the costs and raise the prices of food, and that would then hurt the people that have to eat there. It was an I mean, this conversation is happening a lot right now in the US because
Right.
topics of raising the minimum wage are on the table. People are talking about it. And I just thought it was really interesting because that was the thing that came to mind. I was like, wow, the people, I mean, guaranteed, I don't have the stats in front of me, but guaranteed the owners of McDonald's made a killing regardless of raising the minimum wage. Like, I really
I
don't
think they
think
can
it's as,
afford it.
I'm pretty sure that they can afford it. They can maybe take a little bit less of a, I don't know, bonus or something. And it doesn't need to be offset to the customer, but because people think that it will, it's sort of like lower middle class people are fighting against people that have to work at a minimum wage job. Like it's like these two people are pitted against each other. Like,
Right.
oh well, now I have to spend more on my burger. But it's like, well, I'm just trying to make a living with a minimum wage because that's what the purpose of a minimum wage is, that I can
Right.
work this job full time and have an existence that is
Right.
dignified.
Yeah. It's
Why are these
really
two
a
people
divide and
fighting each
conquer
other?
situation.
What is that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're fighting. Really, it's just you fighting yourself. Right.
Right. I'm like, we're much closer to the people that are working a minimum wage job in terms of like our economic status than the person at the very top. Why are we defending like this guy and being like,
Yeah.
well, he worked really hard for that? Like, oh my God. So did the person taking your order.
They probably
Like,
worked harder.
yeah.
I mean, hi, Jeff Bezos just went to fucking space for 10 minutes and it was $1 billion. Couldn't have used that $1 billion to like pay the people that work for him a living wage. Like,
Right. Right.
and like we're talking about that because food insecurity, food deserts, food access to food would be a completely different story if everyone was paid a living wage. Like that
Exactly.
would be something.
That was one of the biggest things that we sort of found through doing a lot of this research
Yeah.
was like, there's a lot of organizations that of course are trying to give people food as a solution here, but in general,
It's
folks
not a
want to be
solution.
self-sufficient, and there's like, so allow them to, regardless of
Right.
the.
Throwing food at the problem isn't the solution here because we operate at a really high food weight. We don't have a food problem. We actually have a
Mhm.
food waste problem, which is a huge environmental issue.
Yeah.
Like it's something like 10, I actually wrote it down. I think it's like 10% of no, it's over a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions is food production.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
food
Yeah.
waste is
Food
part of
production.
that.
Food waste is part of that, definitely. Yeah.
Food
Or
waste.
producing food for livestock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Massive.
Like
Yeah.
that's huge. That's huge. We produce way too much food and then 30% of it or something on average gets totally wasted. Then we have all these hungry people and they're hungry because they can't afford the damn food, not because they don't have
Mhm.
access to that food. Because like in that Black Food Matters book, they even talked about it how it was normal for them. It felt we're all concerned about food deserts and there's these spaces in the cities that don't people don't have access to food. And yes, that is a big issue. That's a property tax issue, but folks that are living in that situation themselves just feel fine with this. That's how it is. That's how you just go over there to get
Mm-hmm.
to
You
get
still know where to
your
find food.
groceries.
It's not like you're actually walking around a desert, like looking for a food oasis. Like that's not what's happening, right? We're
Right.
still people that can solve the problem, which is just
Right.
a little bit further, but
Right.
it's just unequal access.
It's
It's just
unequal
unequal.
access, and that's a different issue
Yeah.
than food insecurity and
Yeah.
not being able to afford it. And like it's all wrapped up in this like really messy bun. Like it's bad.
It's a sloppy Joe of issues. It's a
Yeah.
it's a
How
yeah.
many food puns can we make? It's a really
It's
heavy issue
yeah.
and it covers I think because it's such a critical resource, food is such a critical we have to eat to live. There is no end to the amount of topics or the amount of issues or the amount of solutions for food
Yeah.
and food waste and food insecurity. Whether it's environmental, there's a ton of people working on it, or social, there's also a ton of people working on that. It's not easy. It's not
Mm-mm.
an easy topic.
Yeah, but I mean, ultimately, we just have to continue trying out different solutions. Like, I just read that in France, they require now grocery stores to provide the food that would be wasted to, I think, just low income members of the community, or I'm not sure the qualifications you would need in order to
Yeah.
receive that, but like it's now required for grocery stores to not just waste, just for
Yeah. They
it
can't
to
just,
not go into the landfill, like that there's a
okay.
step in between, which like that's rad, and like that just try that, like
Yeah.
let's
Give
try
food
some
to
alternatives.
shelters. You're going to throw it away? Give it to a shelter. Give it to
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
I was gonna say homeless on the street, but that's not really a European thing so much anymore. Um, but yeah, give it to the low income. Sorry, there's stuff happening outside my window. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, there are solutions out there, but ultimately, yes, I think that right, we can definitely there's room for improvement in terms of where some of that food that's wasted is going. Of course, some
mhm,
gets wasted that can't be reused, and it's like
of
spoiled, and
course.
that's not good. That's not what we're saying to give to low income
Please don't give
folks. That's not what
spoiled
we're
food
saying.
to low income folks. Don't do that.
That's not, yeah.
No.
But there is a percentage of that food that's wasted that is wasted for like no good reason.
Literally no reason.
And so that's really what we're referring to here, just to clarify. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but ultimately, we should be fighting for a higher national minimum wage in the United States.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and better farming, because I mean that's also that's a social issue, but environmentally we have soil degradation issues. Our food itself is less nutritious. In the, pursuit of the biggest, juiciest tomato, we've lost its nutrition, and we've lost how to grow regeneratively, and how to keep the fertility of our gardens healthy. And you know that before anything else is solved, that really needs to be solved. And I think that probably they'll happen simultaneously, because we have to have these massive infrastructure changes. Humans don't make huge changes unless they're forced to. That's how we operate. But when we do make massive changes, we do it like en masse. So it seems to me, I mean, I have hope that when we're forced to make huge shifts in the way that we grow and the way that we care for our planet and our agricultural system, that will also work towards building an infrastructure that works better for everyone.
yeah.
That's my hope. I'm probably optimistic, but
I think that they both come from society thinking of food as less of like a commodity to make money, but and back to kind of how it used to be, or as a means of community, as a means of like the growing food was something that communities took pride in, and like of course you would want to take care of that soil, and we shouldn't like food production can't be done in the same way as like industrial like the same ways that like fossil fuels are produced. Like it's not the same thing.
Right. Or
Like
it's not, we can't
we
treat
can't
the
we
planet
can't
like an assembly line.
exactly. Yeah. Thank you for the assembly line, Gerald Ford. But like, yeah, that actually just when you're working with the earth, all it does is just take.
Yeah.
It's it's not thinking of anything holistically. That's for sure.
Right.
I think that's actually kind of that's the whole thing, is actually not thinking of things holistically. It's compartmentalizing every aspect of it and removing any like concept of how this piece interacts with the greater whole.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not circular at
Mm-mm.
all. And the way that we grow food commercially is not circular. And at the same time, those farming places are where we farm, and the farms themselves get a lot bigger. They get centralized. And then now we have a bunch of massive central food producers that monocrop, destroy the soil, and people don't know how to grow. They don't know how to have community around food. We've lost so much respect for our farmers, for the way foods are grown, for the old ways of preservation and cultivation of our main resource. That the only And simultaneously we're running out of the ability to even grow them, because we're losing fossil fuels. The agricultural industry is so tied to fossil fuels. It's actually that part is the scariest part for me. And it's wrecking the earth itself. We're gonna have to let those fields lie fallow to regenerate themselves and move towards a more community-based farming before too long. Like we literally just don't have the time.
Yeah.
It's going to be desert,
Yeah. And something
like
we
an
didn't,
actual desert.
yeah, it's true. And something we didn't have the ability to or time to like fully dive into was just how exploitative like
Yeah.
farm workers are, pardon, and how, yeah, it's just socially also just really
Yeah.
not okay with yeah, how farm workers are treated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we didn't even get to like immigration
mhm,
or like, yeah, fields or, oh man,
it's a
we
whole
hardly,
other side of it. But yeah, it's like that's it's tied to food production, but it's just it's tied to food production because it's been industrialized. It's been commodified. It's just this like churn and burn, like, no, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what is hurt in the process. We're on a path towards
Yeah.
cheapest cheapest product, highest return. If
Yep.
we only think of things in that way, then we're doing a lot of damage to
Of course. It's like
everything.
we did talk a lot about the labor force as it relates to fossil fuels. So it's sort of just like copy paste.
Yeah.
That's how it there I mean it's treated the
The
same way.
immigration piece is interesting, and that's something that I would definitely be interested
Talking
in
more about,
talking more about. Yeah, down the
I
line.
know.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. I don't know enough about immigration and
Yeah, I don't either, but yeah, I mean, living in a city that is known for its like yeah, I'm surrounded by farms, and to see like farm workers and they're it's a sad situation of just kind of like second class citizens, the way that
yeah.
they're treated, the way that like yeah, yeah, it's a weird experience.
Yeah, but it's like they're making your eating possible. We
Hmm.
should be treating them really good because eating is very nice.
Yeah, but they live in constant fear of being deported, or like we're only able to produce food at the cost because they're being so exploited and underpaid.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
yeah,
Labor
it's a
and
whole
food.
extra layer. Yeah, I would love to research kind of more like that, the like farm workers movement, and that might be interesting to just talk about different kind of social movements in the
Yeah,
eventually. Yeah.
we should look into it a bit. I'm gonna write that down for
Hmm.
we have another brand called Living Brand Directory, and we share a lot of auxiliary information that we aren't able to fully cover in our podcast there
Yeah. Yeah.
also.
Yeah. That's just a kind of another aspect of it, right? It's yeah.
It's huge,
There's
you
so
know.
much that's tied to food.
Yeah, I would love to because I'm an immigrant and in the country I live in, and I would love to um compare or like, just see like that experience. I one of the most I think I've talked about this before on a podcast, but it might have not been environmental, is like one of the most eye-opening conversations I've had as an expat here is with a refugee expat. Um, and the difference in how the government treats us and also how uh, like the workforce treats us and like we have the exact same status. We have to go through the exact same thing. But the way that we are routed through the system is completely different. And the experience is completely different.
I'm sure. I'm
And
sure. Yeah.
yeah, it's it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I would like to dive into that also.
Hmm. Yeah. There's no end to the types of topics that we could really talk about because everything is so intensely tied, and that's really how we ended up getting to the topic that we're going to transition to. It's like when we were looking at agriculture, we looked into a lot of different aspects of it, but the process is so completely tied to, yes, not only fossil fuels, but also water.
Water. Yep.
Fresh water.
To be honest, I'm just as overwhelmed at talking about water because it's going to be equally as massive global, local
Mm-hmm.
conversations. And I think, but I think it makes sense to cover our basic needs.
Yeah. 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 It kind of feels like it naturally kind of leads into that because fresh water is a natural resources that is depleting.
Mm-hmm.
And what then?
Yeah. What then? Where do we go? I think like maybe this is really topical for you because you live in Southern California and like what happens now?
It's such an interesting thing because in the States we're so sheltered, we're so shielded from any consequence of these things, like I mean, I'm not a homeowner, so it's possible that homeowners take on some sense of responsibility. Like maybe you're told by the government. I've heard that you like can't water your grass all that. Like you can. There's like new laws about that sort of a thing. But like other than that, there's no. We're not being told actively to limit our water usage ever.
Really?
I mean, where would they like how are
I
who's
don't know.
communicating this? Like I don't know. Yeah, no.
Seems like that
I've
would be
never
something
seen
to put on like an Amber Alert, like please
I've gotten
limit
no,
water.
there's never been any sort of mass communication. I mean, maybe a billboard or something that's like be water wise or something, but it's like okay, like that's not it's never in any sense of like this is this is we need you to participate. We need your help. This is an emergency situation. Like it's never put on the individual ever. That's not like and it should be. It absolutely should be. I remember talking to a couple of my friends lived in South Africa. One is from South Africa, but then my close college friend lived there for a few years, and they were going through a drought, and there were limits on how much water you could put out of your tap.
Whoa.
Like if you were brushing your teeth, like you had to turn off the water. Like like there's these like little habits, like when you're doing the dishes, like you can't have the water running for a significant amount of time or else it would just stop. Like, and I don't know how, like I don't know all of the logistics about that, but I thought that was really 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 interesting because it was like there were consequences for overusing water. There aren't consequences here. You could you have to pay more, sure, and it's a utility that you pay for, but like if you have money, like you could run fountains all day every day with fresh water running through them. Like you'll never be stopped from wasting, and
Yeah,
I think that
that's
that's
true.
that's such a different thing here in the States than I think in other places where like people would throw a fit if there was ever a choice by the government to like actually limit usage.
Interesting. Yeah.
I I'm
I'd
interested
like
in
to
the
know
day
more
that
about
that actually comes across. What? Sorry.
I'd like to know more about that, like how other places deal with drought and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely really interested in that. Yeah, it's like yeah, and how can you teach a group of people to be conscious of like something that we think of as so abundant. It's very
Mhm.
similar to fossil fuels, really. It's a really
Yeah.
similar kind of thing of like, how can we teach people to not rely on this so much? Or, but you have to rely on water. I mean, yeah, like
It's
you have to.
water, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But we are so wasteful of it, though. Yeah. Like in so many little ways throughout the day, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really know that until I moved to California. Like I mean I'm from Michigan, where it's like surrounded by the largest amount of fresh water basically in the world.
Hmm.
So water limitations legit are not limited.
Mhm.
There's just water and there's always water. It's always raining. There's always lakes and fucking rivers everywhere. It's fresh water. You can just go stick your face in it. Um, when I moved to California, it was the middle of the drought that was 5 years long, and it didn't rain for more than a year my first year there, which was
Mhm.
so fucking weird. And yeah, we had to learn how to limit water.
But in what way? Like where did you hear about that you had to limit water? Like where did, aside from like seeing maybe a billboard here or there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because
I
that's
think
not something I've ever seen really. I guess I like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's something that's put on the individual.
it just felt jarring that to take for people to see things like take shorter showers. And my boyfriend at the time was or is he's a horticulturalist, so he was working in gardens and stuff,
Yeah, okay.
and
That makes
they
sense.
have to limit water, so it became
Mm,
just a topic of conversation
that makes sense. Yeah,
that way.
he was working for the city, so like I think on like larger kind of, regional like governments and stuff like, and
Yeah,
they
just like
they would
in conversation, it just
yeah,
it just was not. And for us to move from Michigan to a place of drought, like it was a conversation that we were having.
interesting.
And being plant people, and also just as an herbalist, it's something that just like is in conversation. It wasn't something that people were like, limit this, but it was
Yeah.
like a
You noticed it as someone not from here.
not
Or,
from there.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Another
interesting.
thing, yeah. Another thing that I really want to talk about is Flint, Michigan, because that's my hometown. Um, well, we live right, I think maybe 5 miles outside the city limit, not even. So luckily, my parents' tap water was is from a well,
Mhm.
so just on their land. So they don't have to deal with lead in the water, but a lot of people do. It's
Mhm.
still happening. And it was a problem for years before it became international news, before it
Mhm.
became national news. And the Flint people knew they were already dealing with it. They were already like living off of bottled water. Now which is like plastic. And to be honest, that shit comes from the damn lake that is right over there. Like it's so ironic that like the biggest freshwater source in the world has this lead in the water problem.
Yeah, in its backyard. Yeah.
In right in like the middle of the state. um, and it was entirely due to political corruption, old infrastructure, like, and again we're back at systemic racism because
Mhm.
Flint is a poor black city.
Mhm.
So I want to
Mhm.
kind of deep dive into that and like learn learn updates they're working on, see like how far are they actually.
It's been so long, my gosh. Yeah.
It's been damn near a decade.
It felt
Like
more. Yeah.
it's it's crazy. It's there's still not fresh water. What? That's insane. So And it's so easy to forget about its 24-hour news cycle, but there are thousands of people living without fresh water every single day in a country that that has the privilege and entitlement to say that fresh water comes out of the tap, you know? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird to me. So,
There are two Americas, if not more. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will be really, I'm really interested in learning about that, and then and just sort of understanding more about what we're dealing with, how much is left, like what do scientists say in terms of like how,
Right. What do we need to do?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, wait,
yeah.
yeah. Even where are we?
Where are we at? Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, how much is left? How, like, are we, what's our global usage of fresh water? Where is it in the world? Um, and I'm sure that there are ways that people are developing technologies to desalinate water. I know that like that's definitely something that can happen,
Yeah, we
but
just learned we had a client in Kuwait and we were doing a lot of like just reading up on Kuwait and learned that a lot of the water that they're drinking is desalinated water, which
mhm.
was I've never even knew that that was a thing.
I didn't know that it was like actively in use in places. I knew that it
Yeah.
was something that people were researching and
Yeah, right,
of
right.
course would like change a lot. You know, that would be huge, right? Um, but I've always thought of it as like somehow flawed, like there wasn't a great way. And I don't really understand why. Maybe that
I
was
think it's
like some sort of
really
indoctrination that I
energy inefficient.
energy and efficient, maybe. Yeah, yeah.
That's all I
Yeah.
know about it though. So
I don't even
desalinate.
know how you do it. Are you distilling the water? Does that do it? I don't know.
It seems to me like you would have to you would need to evaporate it.
Boil,
That
yeah.
separates the salts from the fresh water. You would
Mhm.
evaporate and then it would go through like a series of tubes and then like re as steam and then you'd
Condense.
recapture it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's something that I just like made up with basic
Yeah,
knowledge.
I've
I
seen this drawing that you're also
yeah.
showing. Yes. I like yes. That's my understanding of how it works as well, but like I remember hearing that like it wasn't so simple. Because it sounds easy enough. We know the process of distilling stuff,
Right.
but so yeah, why isn't it something that's in
Right.
use? Yeah,
And if it is in use, why isn't it in use in places like California?
exactly. Yeah, why are we not right? We have an ocean right there. It's right there. I can
Yeah.
it's right there. It's not yeah. I don't know. But also yeah, there may very well be bigger issues
What don't we know?
there.
That's what we're gonna learn this next.
That is what we are.
The
Yes.
hell don't we know about water?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think that we'll primarily focus on fresh water, but I think that
I'm
it
also
is,
interested in a little bit about oceans. Maybe we need to talk about the ocean. This is gonna be another like 2 month
it
situation.
might be, yeah, it might
Yeah.
be, because I am very interested in learning about plastic pollution in the ocean, microplastics, and
Yep.
um, that is a separate
That does
topic.
seem a little
Yeah.
separate. So we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna talk this month about focusing on water to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Water to drink.
Fresh water.
Fresh water. And then
Mm-hmm.
probably after that transition into like ocean health,
Mm-hmm.
which we haven't talked about at all.
No. Mm-mm.
Marine
I
mammals.
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about that situation except for like, what's the topical information
Right.
that's out there, the most,
Yeah.
that there's an ever growing amount of plastic in the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
That's the general knowledge of, know what's out
Yeah,
there, but
and the ocean is our biggest carbon sink, and that the carbon sink is creating things like algae blooms, which is killing fishes and changing the pH of things, like and like wrecking coral. Like I know that stuff, but I don't know any statistics or like solutions. So I want to know that too.
yeah.
Like, does it actually help with, we work with sustainable brands, but like, and everybody doing their part is so necessary, but how helpful is it when someone is pulling plastic and making a product out of it? Like at what level does that have to happen for it to be an actual helpful solution? How many, there's tons and tons of brands and people out there doing it. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
the best work. They're playing the role they can, and they absolutely need that to happen. But how much of that do we need to solve this problem? That's what
Right.
I'm interested in.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
what effects is that actually having? Yeah, like
Yeah. Is it even possible to pull as much out as we're putting in? How do we tip that
it
scale?
has, like, we have to do that. Like, yeah, but it's is that happening? Probably not. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm scared to learn facts about this stuff.
We are both, side note, both afraid of the ocean in general. Both of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I
Deeply afraid.
yeah, it's something that, yeah, I'm like, some people can watch those videos of like giant, massive, like deep, like sea waves and stuff,
Nope.
boat. I cannot. If it's a, I don't, yeah, I feel like I'm
Sometimes if
traumatized.
I really, really want to scare myself, I'll watch like make made up videos of really old things that used to be in the ocean.
Oh, so it's the sea creatures for you.
Oh man, fucking the sea monsters.
Oh,
No,
wow.
it's the monsters.
I am afraid of sharks for sure, but it's more just like the vastness, or like the it's just so big and those gigantic waves. It's just not a place where I want to
Not a
be.
place for people. It's not a
No,
place for people.
it's not a place. It's yeah, it's spooky.
No. I can't
Um
swim that fast.
I can't.
I can't.
I
I don't
haven't
think
swam in years.
I can't go very fast in the ocean. I'm not very survivally there. If
No.
you put me in the forest, I could survive for a long ass time. If you put me in the water, I'm gonna die within a day because I can't kick for that long.
Mm.
No, I gotta hope for a fucking dolphin or a driftwood, and I gotta hope that the sea monsters don't come and eat my ass. That's my hope.
And they might,
And they're
man.
gonna, because I'm a
Yeah.
tasty
You're a
morsel, and
tasty
there's
treat.
lots of stuff out
You're
there
a tasty treat.
that
Yeah.
moves real slow. Like when I talk
Mm-hmm.
about sea monsters, it could be a fish this big and I'm afraid of it. I
Don't
don't,
touch me. Ew.
yeah.
Don't
If some
touch me.
people are really into putting their feet in like the little fish that
Ooh, I
come and
don't
like
like it.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Don't
Mm-mm.
touch me. What are you doing? So
Mm-mm.
just oh, I know that if you were bigger, you would be swallowing my feet. Don't touch me.
Right. Yeah. This is only like funny
Um,
because you're small, but you're still eating flesh. That's disgusting.
yeah, I mean, we eat meat, but I'm just like,
Human skin, I guess. Human skin. Yeah. You're still like, if you had the chance, you would eat the whole body, my whole
yeah,
body. Yeah.
yeah, you
Right.
would, I would, yes,
Yeah.
you would consume me.
Yeah.
And if I died and I was in the water, I would be eaten by fish, regular
Very,
fish.
very soon.
You ever
Yeah.
seen like a school of fish all together and one of them dies? They immediately just eat their tail and their eyes.
I did not know that, but I'm not surprised. It's kind of yeah, it's a pretty cutthroat world out there in the water.
The ocean.
I am afraid
It's
of
safe
sharks in any body of water. Even if I'm swimming in like a lake, I think that a shark is gonna bite my legs off. Even in a
though. Oh,
pool, I think that I'm gonna,
alligator in the pool. Yep.
yeah. So this will be one we won't be watching videos to do our research.
It's
But
also like totally different to talk about plastic in the ocean
yes,
and saving coral reefs. And I'm also down to save the sea monsters. I'm just not trying to hang out with those dudes.
right, right. Yeah, which is totally fine. But I just thought
Yeah.
that that was a funny thing. It was since we'll be researching the ocean, we are both
Yeah.
actively like kind of like it's cool. It needs to be there. It needs to be there, and I want it to be healthy, and I want it to be safe. I don't
But
want
miss
to
me.
really touch it. I don't really want
I
to touch
don't.
it. Yeah.
I will watch the ocean for a long time though. I
Yes.
think it's really a beautiful goddess of and breath and heartbeat of our planet. And we need that.
Yes. But I don't want to touch it.
Nope.
Maybe just a little, but yeah.
It's
Right.
person.
It's hilarious. I mean, it's yeah, I live 5 minutes away from the beach, but I just yeah, I mean, it is fun to look at and the sounds. It's very
The sound
relaxing.
is
It's very
nice.
grounding. It's lovely. It's a yes. Um,
But that is
it's funny.
It's a terrifying part of the world.
It is an alien place to be.
I think I'm
Yes.
more scared of the ocean than I am of space. I also have absolutely no interest in space.
I'm pretty interested in space. Not that I would ever
I would like to
attempt.
learn about space in
Mhm,
the same way I want to learn about the ocean, but
mhm,
I'm not trying to go in space.
mhm. No, 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 I'm good. Yeah.
That seems like I can't live. I can't. It's the same as in like I can't breathe the stuff around me if I'm in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think maybe it freaks us out because it's like it highlights how fragile humans are, perhaps.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I just can't survive there. I can't
right.
breathe. I can't
No,
walk.
no
I
one
can't
can.
climb. Right. I know, but some people are like, I want to go there. And it's like, the hell's wrong with you?
It doesn't want us
You
there.
can't survive that.
No. Nope. Mm-mm.
No.
Yep. Yeah. So
Anyway, that's like a 20-minute diatribe of our the things we're afraid of.
yeah. But I am still, yeah, I'm really, really, really interested in learning about both
Yeah.
freshwater and the health
The
of the
ocean.
oceans,
Yeah.
because we have to when we're thinking about sustainability as a whole and the way that we
Yeah.
do. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we would love, gosh, if anyone watching has any like cool books or something,
Yeah.
resources, anything you'd want us to look into, questions about
Water.
anything about yeah water, definitely let us know in the comments because yeah, we would love your guys' input as well as like which direction you want us to go, so that would be great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, we'll see you next time.